What the frick is this piece of shit?
Admittedly, I'm a bit late to this video, but after covering off Ashes of Creation and talking about their alpha, I thought it was only fair that we take a deep dive into Pax Dei. So let's start at the beginning and look at what even is a Pax Dei. A social sandbox MMO developed on Unreal 5. In this immense open world playground, you choose the role you want to play. Travel the relative safety of the heartland and find the perfect plot of land on which to build your home. Everything in this world is produced by the player's hands and skills. Okay, stop. That's enough fucking marketing jargon, okay? Basically, it's a sandbox MMO RPG with open world elements such as PvP and base building. Oh, and there's an emphasis on being social, which is interesting considering that most MMORPG players are more likely to give you a rundown of their favourite trains as opposed to, you know, make eye contact and have a conversation, if you catch my drift. I'll be honest, I don't think this game knows what it wants to be, and at this point it's just checking off boxes on the Steam category to make it as popular as possible. But we'll get to that a bit later. So who exactly is developing this title? Good question. It is a studio called Mainframe, and they've had several companies invest in them. This includes Riot Games and the co-founders of Twitch and King. So to clarify, this isn't a AAA studio producing a MMORPG, it's somewhat of an indie studio with a large financial backing, and most importantly, a UE5 MMO which isn't a Kickstarter. Bear in mind they opened their studio in Paris in 2021, great year, and they're expecting to have the game in early access by spring 2024. Bear in mind, we're now in May. A truly ambitious timeline. But hey, who am I to judge? I'm just a talking dog on the internet who covers off MMOs and MMORPGs and does video reviews which you might enjoy, so please like and subscribe. That was very shameless, that plug, and I apologise. It's worth noting that survival MMORPGs aren't exactly a new thing. You have the likes of Worm, Conan, the new Dune MMO which is coming out later this year, and the list goes on. Although Pax Dei sounds interesting in concept, it is by no means a new concept. But hey, that's enough theory crafting. Let's go see what Pax Dei had to offer us in their latest alpha. To anyone who doesn't know, the way testing usually works is you'll go alpha testing, which is usually aimed at a small audience and is a basic proof of concept, which is then followed by beta testing, which is open to a broader audience, making sure any kinks and bugs have been worked out. When it comes to the games industry, a lot of people don't get to play the alpha, you usually get to play the beta, and alphas are usually behind an NDA. For Pax Dei, this was not the case. In fact, anyone could sign up, stream it, and basically give their feedback. It's worth noting that not everyone who signed up did get a key. However, there were loads of giveaways for alpha keys, which is an interesting choice. It's an interesting one. So to give you a very quick timeline, the very first alpha was very bare bones. There was no combat. They said out loud there was no combat. It was basically testing out the building, which is fine. They were very transparent about what they were trying to do, and no one really complained. And then the second alpha came along, and they said they had obviously improved it, added some combat into it, and even a PvP zone. And as someone who played the first alpha and got to play a second alpha, I can tell you now, there wasn't much of a difference. It was pretty much the same shit. So now that I've set the scene, let's get started, shall we? So one of the main draws to this game is the fact that it's on UE5. The engine in itself is very spectacular and you can do a lot with it. This has been shown countless times when it comes to character creator screens, and Pax Dei is no different. Although, realistically, it's not as advanced as I thought it could be. If you compare it to Ashes of Creation, it's definitely lower down on the scale. And dare I say it, Quinfall actually has a better character creator. But listen, it's an alpha, so I am being judgmental and probably unfairly. Let's see what he looks like underneath. Oh my god, look at the size of this schlong. So, I mean, yeah, he's gonna be a tank. He's gonna be a tank. My character was ready to go. All that was left to do was pick a character name, which was apparently more difficult than it should have been. Who's taken all my names? So either someone is trolling me, or they just didn't wipe the database with all the previous names, which was kind of annoying. So I did the only thing I could do in this situation, which was steal someone else's identity. So yeah, thank you, Nice Gaming. All that was left to do now was pick a server and a start zone, and off I went. It kicks off in your typical survival fashion, which is you have nothing and you need to go gather some materials in order to make some tools.
Dude, what's all that stuff you're grabbing?
Tools! Tools! Duct tape, zip ties, and gloves! I have to have my tools!
Now, I'm not exaggerating, but last time I jumped into the alpha, it took me about 3 hours to find a rock and a stick in order to make my basic tools. Like, in my mind, I had some goals, objectives I want. I found it! I have the rock! Oh my god! Oh my god! It took so long, but I did it! I am the best fucking Pax Dei player there ever was! No one is better than me! This time around it took me 10 minutes, and this is partly because as soon as people load in, they will just gather everything and anything off the floor, which means the resources can be scarce in particular areas. If anything, it's a bleak reminder of the type of society that we live in.
The Industrial Revolution and its consequences.
The funny thing was, I knew that they had introduced PvP to the second alpha, I just didn't read the instructions on how to do it, which led to me just trying to attack a random guy to no avail. Oh, there's another person. Can I attack him? I'm just going to straight up PvP him. There's no voice chat, which is kind of annoying. I imagine this is what PvP will look like. Is he actually running from me? Get back here! You little shit! Is that auto run? Fuck, how do I type? Hi!
Hello?
It's just straight up running. Is there PvP? I don't know. Murder! 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 No PvP, oh good. I was just checking, you know, see if there's any PvP going on. There isn't. We're good. We're all good. I like his cloak though, that was nice. So I don't know how the PvP works, probably have to research that. There's a PvP zone I need to go to. Right, makes sense. Makes sense. Did he actually reply back to it? Was he just like... No, he just dot me. Alright. Making friends. So, whilst we're on the topic of PvP, let's discuss that a little bit more. It might come as a surprise to some people, but this Care Bear building MMO actually has PvP, and quite a brutal one at that.
Oh, the shield back. Oh, no, she's full of arrows, like full. Oh my god. Someone hit her straight in the head. Oh, oh, she's still blinking. That's fucked up. Oh, she's still blinking. Oh. Oh, she's lost her hair. There
are certain zones that you can do PvP, and it's full loot. So if you die, you're gonna lose
everything.
And I mean
everything.
However, as you just heard, I wasn't aware that there was PvP zones. That's partly because they weren't marked on your map, and also just a light little, you know, oversight by the devs when it came to the alpha, which was...
If you weren't in the know of where the PvP zone was when you picked your location, then you could have put yourself 30 minutes to an hour away from the entrance to the PvP zone.
So yes, not very well thought out in my opinion. I'll be honest, I expected more from the PvP simply because there are base building elements to this game, and usually with that comes like territorial control. So how exactly are you going to, win over new territories if you have to go to a zone to PvP? What the zones did provide though was rare resources, so there was a point in PvPing at least, which is a good thing. In their PvP brief, they do talk about not wanting a PvP toggle, which is obviously a good thing. Just look at New World and how great that system works. But let's be honest, if you're doing an alpha and it's very much catered towards the Care Bear population, no offense, with all your base building, crafting and resource gathering, you kind of need to pull the band-aid off if you are going to have a more brutal PvP structure. Otherwise, all you're doing is just delaying the inevitable that when people find out that the PvP is that brutal, they're just going to up and leave your game, and that's not going to look good on anyone. There is no avoiding the elephant in the room, which is that the combat is
Fucking dreadful.
In the first alpha, we got told that the combat was just a placeholder, as they were more interested in testing other elements of the game, and that's fair enough. But in the second alpha, the combat was only slightly better, and oh boy, you can now stun lock enemies. Bear in mind as well that they were testing out PvP with this combat. Now, I wouldn't be so uptight about this if it wasn't for the fact that this title will soon be in early access. And how soon, you might be wondering? Well, technically I guess it is spring depending on what side of the world you're on, but it is going to be before June 20th this year. My evidence? Well, there's an update to the launcher and everyone in Discord says so, including the admins. When it comes to combat in an MMO, it's very important to get it right. One bad first impression and people won't want to play your title anymore. Case in point, look at the Elder Scrolls Online. Some people absolutely adore the combat, but a majority of people just can't stand it and detest it. And they won't ever touch the Elder Scrolls Online because of it.
One's going to run off and we'll just... There you go. One's going to de-ag. Oh. Right,
I'm
you're
trying
going
to...
die.
Oh! I can't...
Awkward.
So when your first impression of Pax Dei's combat is a glitchy mess which is very uninspiring, early access or not, you're probably going to avoid this title.
So are we gonna outrun them first? Okay, bow guy's already left, so I'm gonna stun. Come this way, come this way. I tried. I can't. Bro, I can't attack. I can't even do my regular basic attacks. I wasn't trying to hit control after the 6th second. I was just trying to poke stick him.
He's shooting arrows at me now.
And as I said, the combat in Pax Dei was beyond janky.
The good news is, I can't teabag you.
Yes, I know you've been trying. Wow. What? I did not consent to that.
Alright, have you got...
All right, yeah, okay, so yeah, it wasn't me. I'm clicking right now and I literally can't attack. Like, that's a thing. I'm clicking right now. Okay, so what if let me put the weapon away.
I mean, you haven't even got the weapons up on my screen.
Oh, really? Yeah, and so I'm clicking again and it's not happening.
Yeah,
it's
your weapon's not out. You haven't got weapons out.
Really? So I'm just bugged.
As I said earlier, I understand this is alpha testing. We are to expect bugs. That's the whole point in alpha testing. So why is there a rush to get this to early access? So before I delve down the rabbit hole of early access and why they might be pushing it so hard, let me tell you where I currently stand with the game. The concept isn't a bad concept. Everyone loves base building. Look at the popularity of games such as Valheim, Enshrouded, and Rust. The actual built-in construction mechanics were second to none. It was glorious to see some of the buildings that people were creating, and it really did look awesome. I liked the crafting, as grindy as it was, and it had good sense of survival mechanics, and obviously the variety of weapons was a nice thing to see, even if the combat was very janky. But there's no avoiding the fact that the last two alphas played like a UE5 version of Alien. There's no sense of conflict. It definitely didn't feel social unless she was in Discord. With all the testing going on, why don't they test something like VoIP or a better chat system? They were so proud to show off UE5 and the construction mechanics in this game that they seem to have forgotten about anything and everything else, which is fine if you're alpha testing, but in this day and age, when you look at other games which are doing alpha testing and what they seem to offer, it feels like Pax Dei is miles behind. Star Citizen, although it is still an alpha, you can pretty much no-life it. Not necessarily the best example on the list because it has been an alpha for over 10 years. Ashes of Creation have been delaying their alpha for such a long time just to make sure that people aren't disappointed. Like I said, delaying an alpha, not early access. Corepunk, another MMO, still doing alpha testing, and yet it still has more to it than Pax Dei. So to give everyone a reminder of the timeline, Pax Dei was publicly announced in March 2023, and they expect to be in early access on Steam, where you'll have to part of your money to play in early access as early as June 2024. And to me, this just screams that they need further funding. It's the only reason I can think of that they are being so aggressive in their development to get this in the Steam store. It doesn't seem viable to have two bare bones and short alpha testing sessions and then go straight to early access within Steam. It's at this point a lot of people will argue, well, it's only early access and they're clearly going to state that it's early access, so anyone wanting to pay to play early, that's on them. But if you know the MMO population and how their minds work, early access means you get to play the game early, not that you're going to be a tester for a game which is nowhere near finished. And when a game becomes desperate for money, it also becomes heavily monetized. There was already an outcry when they set out their monetization plan because the way it came across was the fact that everything was monetized. This may not be a UE5 MMO Kickstarter asking you for money. Instead, it's a UE5 early access MMO asking you for money. Indie MMOs live and die by their decisions, especially rushed decisions. Look at Fractured Online. It has no population whatsoever, and that's another sandbox MMO RPG. Gloria Victis, once again, a sandbox MMO, which is dead. It is gone. If you are lucky enough to survive a bare bones launch, then you could end up looking like Mortal Online 2, which is renowned for being, well, Mortal Online 2. But hey, at least it has social aspects, it has VoIP, it has guilds, it also has a fleshed out combat system. And guess what? It's also on UE5. So if Pax Dei's aim is to have just over 1,000 concurrent players on a good day, then I'm sure they're gonna be just fine. Because if there's one thing that the MMO population loves, it's a rushed launch. Or maybe I'm just being overdramatic, and you know what? This game is going to be amazing because that building, oh my god, the building was just so good. That is going to carry us to the end of time. 10 out of 10 MMO, definitely 100% going to play.
You are coping and seething. You just can't accept what you're seeing. Yes, you're coping and seething. The truth it is scalding, and now you are molding and coping so hard.